Welcome, gentlemen, also gentlewomen, and why not gentle children? It's Friday, let them come in as well. Today, on this Friday, is, by the way, the 158th anniversary of the shooting of Abraham Lincoln in Ford's Theater by John Wilkes Booth. Now, Lincoln died the following day. The reason why he died was because he was not tanky enough. So, for today, we are not gonna have the same problem because we're gonna be talking about tanks. Let's take a look at what the situation is for tanks right now and what does it look like it's going to be in Season 2. Now, there are two important things to pay attention to for the release of Season 2, as you might know already, and that is borrowed power and changes coming from Blizzard, because those are the two main ways in which the power of your character is going to change. If at this moment one spec is S tier and the other one is Z tier, well, the only way they're going to become better or worse in the next season is either if they have a very powerful tier set which makes them much stronger, or if Blizzard is planning to change them with some balance tuning for patch 10.1. So let's start by looking at the tanks and what is planned for them in terms of buffs or nerfs with balance tuning for patch 10.1. Actually, I just now realized that this graphic is pointless because I could have just gone with this instead, because that is effectively what can we expect from patch 10.1 at the moment when it comes to patch notes for tanks. We do have a few interesting things worth talking about when it comes to patch notes, like for example, Devastation Evoker is getting a whole bunch of new things, Balance Druid, Shadow Priest, right? There are a few other changes to other specs, but not when it comes to tanks. Apparently, Blizzard does not seem to see many issues with the state of tanks right now when it comes to their core kit. So for patch 10.1, we are not planned to have much of any changes in terms of balance tuning, at the very least for now. As I said, we have 3.5 more weeks left to finish, to exhaust your tanks of Copium and Hopium, why not, hoping that your favorite tanks will get a last-minute buff out of nowhere from Blizzard, but at the moment there is nothing for tanks in terms of tuning for the next season. Which means what is left to try to see if something can change when it comes to choosing your tank for the next season is the tier sets, together with how they are performing, how they are looking right now. So let's get out with the most obvious thing, okay? Yes, all of you who were thinking about or already decided to or already did reroll to a flavor of the month Paladin, yes, your flavor is going to continue to be of the month for the month of May, the month where Season 2 will launch, because Protection Paladin will continue to be the strongest tank for the next season. The planned tier set for Protection Paladin isn't even that great. That is sort of the benefit you can have if you are already an S tier spec. You don't need to have a super powerful tier set because you are strong already. The tier set of Paladin, to be fair, is very good at doing the thing you are currently the weakest at, which is single target damage. So the 2-piece set bonus in particular with the extra damage over time not only is still very good in AoE, but you already have good AoE damage, it's gonna be better for your single target, which you lack a lot of. What is much worse and what makes the tier set quite mediocre is the current tuning of the 4-piece. The fact that the very strong effect of proccing Grand Crusader, which could give you an even stronger single target because Judgment hits for a lot on your one target, the reason why it gets quite weak is because it can only proc from your crit. Now, Paladins don't care about crit, Paladins go for haste, Paladins go for mastery, even for verse, but not really for crit. So you're gonna not really benefit a lot from this 4-piece set bonus. You are at the moment the S tier tank in Mythic Plus, and by result you also start, flooding in the raid as a high tier tank because you are quite high in Mythic Plus as well. You have tons of tools which are strong right now and will continue to be strong in Season 2. You have tons of interrupts thanks to your Avenger's Shield. You have tons of powerful cooldowns from pretty much every pool. So all of that is still there. The tier set is not too great, but overall, because of how powerful you are right now, you remain the standard, default, expected tank to be the stronger one in the next season. What might be more interesting to talk about is the previous top tier tank, is the previous number one for the first couple of months of the expansion, which is Protection Warrior. Protection Warrior has been nerfed, 2 or 3 times over time, has been overtaken by Protection Paladin, and now what's their situation? Well, the situation isn't exactly too bright in the sense that your tier set bonus is not particularly powerful. It is similar to Protection Paladin, a decent single target increase, roughly at best a 5% more single target damage as a Protection Warrior, very little, borderline none, in AoE situations. The defensiveness bonus, your tankiness bonus of the 2-piece is very, very small. It's at best a 15-second cooldown reduction to your last stand. And the 4-piece as well continues to add even more offensive power to your last stand by giving you some AoE after last stand has ended. So overall, the tier set itself is not a massive increase in your power as a Prot Warrior. You have already lost out to Protection Paladin in this season, and you will continue to at the start of the next season. You're still very good at doing the same things you were doing before. You still have quite a lot of AoE damage as a tank. You still have quite a lot of defensiveness and quite a lot of ways to cheese mechanics thanks to your multiple ways to stop magical damage, and you might still be decent in the raid. At the moment, it's not that warriors are looking too good. The DPS warriors tier sets are not looking particularly promising, so maybe you end up in a situation where you still want something like a battle shout, of course, in the raid, and something like a rallying cry in the raid, so the choice of a Protection Warrior is still going to be a default one for your raid spots, and you continue to be quite viable and quite strong in Mythic Plus as well. So despite the tier set not being a special one this time around for Prot Warrior, you still have a pretty decent outlook on Season 2 for everyone who was interested in playing or continuing to play or starting to play a Protection Warrior. They are also looking fine still for Season 2. Now, these two, the protection gang of tanks, have been at the top for this first season. There was also the third one. There was a third tank which was right behind them when it came to popularity, which is Blood Death Knight. So Blood was the one that was the most popular tank in the raid. It still is actually above Protection Paladin, and also the second most popular tank in Mythic Plus, and now not anymore after Prot Paladin was buffed. So what's good? What's good about Blood DK is that actually, while not really getting changed in terms of tuning in 10.1, they are getting an actually pretty good tier set for the next season. Doing default 20% more damage on your Heart Strike and on your Blood Boil is going to be even more AoE damage, which is fantastic for a BDK because they were absolute trash in doing AoE damage right now. It was one of their main weaknesses in Mythic Plus, the fact that they could not keep up with other tanks and their AoE damage. So now they are definitely going to be doing better in Season 2. They also get a quite powerful proc in terms of defensiveness with the 5 seconds of Vampiric Blood when their 2-piece procs. That is going to also work very well in Mythic Plus. Of course, some players might not enjoy it nearly as much, trying to fish for procs and having it RNG, so you don't actually know when you're going to get, if you're going to get your 5 seconds of Vampiric Blood. But definitely, even if you don't like the RNG effects, it's definitely an improvement over the current tier set of Blood DK. You are no longer reliant on requiring to take auto attacks to benefit from your tier set. You no longer have to lose value of your Dancing Rune weapon with your tier set, and you are no longer tied to encounter design based on whether or not you get attacked by the boss. So it's definitely a much better set for Blood DK, and Blood DK was already doing fine in this season, so it can only become better, it can only be stronger in the next season compared to where they are now. So overall, it's a good look for Blood DK. Blood Death Knight is always, especially at the start of a season, always have higher stocks in the raid because of features like grips that can control adds, because of features like anti-magic shell which can cheese certain mechanics, and because of the way they can self-sustain themselves for a lot, not requiring nearly as much healing from healers, meaning that healers are more free to care for the rest of the group. So this is always very valuable at the start of a season when everyone is undergeared, everyone is taking more damage, everyone is at more risk of dying, so having a Blood DK in the raid is often very valuable. So they might have a little bit more of an extra value at the start of a season, especially in the raid. Mythic Plus might still not be as much of a wanted pick compared to the protection bros, Paladin and Warrior, but I would still be, up to these first 3 picks as tanks, I will still be quite confident in choosing either one of the 3 for the next season of Dragonflight. This is where, however, we enter a little bit more of a shaky territory, because we start with Brewmaster Monk. So the tier set of Brewmaster Monk is actually quite good. Or maybe, depends on which way you see this, quite bad, because it gives you something you already had in spades, which is more damage. It's not that right now Brewmaster Monk is not meta in Mythic Plus because they don't have damage. As a matter of fact, Brewmaster Monk has the highest damage out of all tanks. So it's not that this tier set is going to change in terms of giving you something different. You get more damage with Blackout Kick as your 2-piece, right? Even more damage with your 4-piece set bonus because of your crit chance. So that's something you already have. What the set bonus is going to do that you really need is more defensiveness as a Brewmaster Monk. Having a chance to not reset your elusive brawler on your 2-piece is going to give you way more overall dodge as a monk, and then your 4-piece, even better, gives you a stack of elusive brawler with Rising Sun Kick. This is great because now it finally gives you a reason as a Brewmaster Monk to press Rising Sun Kick. Previously it was just a damage button. Now actually it does something for your tankiness, something for your defensiveness as a Brewmaster. So now in Season 2 this tier set gives you more tankiness than before, it gives you more damage than before, so it's a positive outlook in Season 2. Now the question is that going to be enough to beat out the other tanks, for example, that we just mentioned? That is perhaps the only question mark you can have if you're thinking about rolling in Season 2 a Brewmaster Monk. Honestly, unlikely that it will be able to beat out, at the very least, Protection Paladin in being popular, in being meta. In Mythic Plus, it might, thanks to this powerful tier set, do something better than Blood Death Knight, for example, in Mythic Plus, and get closer to Protection Warrior. So maybe you will still be able to find some room to play in Mythic Plus quite easily as a Brewmaster Monk. So that is the situation right now for Brewmaster. It's looking better than before, but even while looking better than before, it's not enough at the moment to get close to the top 2 tanks right now, as Season 2 comes close. And then we enter the bottom 2 tanks, which have been at the bottom for this entire season. So they do need something for Season 2. Now, first in line is Vengeance. Now, the set bonus for Vengeance Demon Hunter, it has a good and a bad. The good of this set bonus for Vengeance is that overall it's gonna give you some 10% damage in single target and roughly 10%, a bit more, in AoE. Between the 2-piece and the 4-piece set bonus. Things like turning your shear or your fracture into fire damage so they don't get diminished in damage by the armor of the enemy, your stacking fire damage of your 2-piece set bonus, etc., is all quite good. What is also quite strong is the roughly 5% more self-healing given by the set bonus, as well as the extra fiery brand you will be able to get off for free every 30-ish seconds on one target. So the bonuses are mostly in terms of damage. The weaknesses are mostly in terms of lack of tankiness in AoE situations, lack of tankiness in, for example, trash mobs in Mythic Plus. You are not really, with this tier set, getting too much outside of the heal of your soul fragments in the 2-piece in terms of big pulls in Mythic Plus. It's mostly centered around more single target. So that's perhaps the weakness of Vengeance, because that is also the current weakness of Vengeance, the fact that their Firebrand spreading or their souls collecting or their frailty stacking takes some time to ramp up, takes some time to go in full throttle, so they are quite weak at the start of a pull. This is not really being addressed in these tier sets. It's not really going to help Vengeance Demon Hunter with this type of weakness come Season 2. So considering their current state and this tier set not really fixing those type of problems, I don't see Vengeance going much of anywhere. Also, considering the meta, the very popular state of Havoc Demon Hunter, much of the utility, much of the bonuses brought in a raid, for example, are already brought by an Havoc Demon Hunter, and as well as probably in Mythic Plus as well. So it's not likely that we will see a Vengeance Demon Hunter anytime soon becoming quite popular in the next season. That would be my take on Vengeance right now. If you really must, if you really like, if you really enjoy being edgy, having some horns and some wings and jumping around every 5 seconds, go ahead, but don't expect to take it, too seriously when playing a Vengeance Demon Hunter. That was the point. Now we have left the last of the copium for last, because what is left is Guardian Druid. Guardian has been left for last because they arguably have the strongest of the tier sets, and they are also arguably the weakest currently of the tanks. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what can the weakest tank do in Season 2 with the strongest tier set. Their tier set is very strong because besides giving you some extra damage, it also gives you an insane amount of self-healing and extra defensiveness. The 2-piece set bonus giving you 6% of your damage taken as a hot over 8 seconds at all times when you're in combat, because it's activated by taking damage, so it's always going to be active. That is a lot of self-healing, increased even more so when you have Frenzied Region active and you heal yourself for even more. And then the 4-piece set bonus gives you 15% more max HP. That is easily the strongest of the buffs to give to any tank. Now, Guardian, which makes of having a lot of HP a big thing for them, so they have even more with this tier set. Pressing Maul once every 12 seconds to keep this bonus up is going to be extremely easy, so it's pretty much gonna mean 15% more max HP at all times. So between the healing of your 2-piece, which gets bonuses from your Frenzied Region and from your Mastery for extra healing, and the extra HP of your 4-piece, which still gets bonuses from your Mastery as well, it's gonna make it very, very strong for Guardian. These are very, very powerful tools, since they still are, unfortunately, without proper ways to mitigate magical damage. So the best way they have right now is to have tons of HP and heal for a lot, and this tier set gives them exactly that. So it's going to be interesting to see in Season 2 if the weak tank can actually go and do something with a much more powerful tier set now for them. That being said, only if you are a copium enjoyer, you should risk thinking about playing a Guardian Druid in Season 2. As I said, the likely easier picks are going to be the Protection Warrior and the Protection Paladin, with the Blood Decay right behind them, roughly more or less as they are right now. Because, as mentioned, what is going to matter more, since we don't really have any balance tuning right now for Season 2, is the current state of tanks plus whatever they will get from the tier sets. So the 3 tanks right now doing the best roughly should probably continue to be doing quite well in Season 2, and the tanks currently at the bottom are unlikely to grow that much more. I see some positive things for Brewmaster and the possible chance of the very powerful tier set of Guardian actually bringing them much higher than expected. But as I mentioned, that's a very long shot, that's a very optimistic opium take, so take this with a grain of salt about Guardian Druid. Only if you are a risk enjoyer, you should go ahead and try out Guardian for Season 2. So this one has been the review, the current situation so far with tanks approaching Season 2. You know, trying to gauge how the tanks are looking like and will look like in Season 2. That right now is the situation. Once again, of course, given that we have no more extra balance tuning before the release of the season, because currently we do have none for tanks, so not much more is going to change. With this out of the way, on this Friday, according to some, the beginning of the weekend, we can now leave each other. As usual, we can start our goodbyes by thanking all of our Patreon supporters for the contribution and the help to the growth of the channel. You can still, of course, support in completely free ways, such as liking and commenting down below, because that's what YouTube wants, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. There are also other free ways to support, like following me over on Twitter, as well as following me over on my stream on Twitch. With these social unnecessarities out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, no, but actually my copium must have been of a pretty good brand, because I'm beginning to believe about the Guardian.